Welcome back to Algebra 1, Chapter 5, Section 7 in this book. Okay, so we started talking about this a little bit. This chapter has been all about equations and graphing them. And we already talked a little bit about scatter plots and how you don't do connect the dots, you draw a line somewhere in the middle, and I told you that the word for it is interpolation, and that word is found on page 318 of your book. Okay, then there's another thing. Graphs and statistics are used sometimes to manipulate people. So you need to be good at reading them so that, one, you do good on the SAT and the ACT and the college entrance exams, but also you don't want to be manipulated, you want to be smart. So there are some things that people do to try to manipulate you with data, making it seem science. She blended me with science. And this is one of them. It's the break, okay? So say you're graphing something on this side and it goes from 0 to 10. But over here, from 0 to 200, there's not much action. So they only graph, like say from 200 to 300, or say something like that. They'll put a break so that you don't have 1 to 200 with nothing happening. But this is how they abuse it, okay? So imagine there's a break in a graph, and it's a bar graph, and it looks like this, where it looks like there's maybe even less than that. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's make that one even less. Okay, so it looks like there's a huge difference in these. But there's this break here. So what you're seeing in reality might be this. I didn't do them right. This one should be a little bit bigger. And then that one should be quite a bit bigger. All right. So you look at this and it's like, wow, look at the difference in these. But say it's really this. Let's make them like this. And this is what, if you had put in those 200 without that break, say it looks like that, then you can see really they're real close. By just chopping off the top and making that your graph, you manipulate the data to look like there's more difference than there really is. So watch out for that. Don't be manipulated. Make sure you're understanding what that little break in the scale means, okay? The other thing is, remember I told you we use fancy words, and one of them is interpolation, that instead of doing dot to dot, you just draw a line somewhere through the middle. There's another fancy word called extrapolation. And what extrapolation is, that you suppose that if the trend continues, this line will be generated. Now, do you know that's going to happen? No, you do not. But you're supposing the trend will continue and this line will be generated. But has it? No, it has not. But we call it the fancy name extrapolation instead of guessing in the future where we have no idea. So, for example, beepers were real big in the 90s when I first started teaching. And if you did an extrapolation of beeper sales in America, you would think every man, woman, child, and baby has one by now. But in truth, the cell phone replaced the beepers. We had cell phones, they were flippy. But the smartphones have replaced all this, and nobody has beepers anymore. They probably don't even make them, and if you had one, you probably couldn't even get it turned on. So this would be false. It would look real sciencey and like it was based on science, but it's false. So beware of false data. Coming up with an election year. Last election year, they manipulated the data for the surveys to see who's going to win, and by doing that, they made it look like Hillary was going to win in a landslide. And she didn't. And the reason why they did that is because in America, we like to vote for the winning team. It's like, yay, my team won and your team lost. Boo-boo. So they will try to make their favorite candidate look like they're doing better than they are. But it's dishonest, and it really wasn't good for anybody. It was devastating to Hillary and her supporters to think, according to these polls, that she was going to win in a landslide. And she didn't. I mean, you know, there's dispute about where the tally finally landed, but it certainly wasn't a landslide. And Donald Trump's president. And so it wasn't good. You know, it just wasn't good because they were manipulating data with little data tricks like this. So you need to beware and make sure that what you're looking at is good, but also know that if you see data, sometimes it's been manipulated and it's not really truthfully reflecting what's going on. So just a little bit of life that goes with math here. Okay, here's another one. Okay, the other thing that's in your book is this time is about how you can do the little, you know, figure out the slope thing and do the linear regression and figure out the line from it. But remember, there's 2020. We don't do that anymore. Now we do the linear regressions on our calculator, and even in this chapter they talk about how that's done. If you don't know how to do that, watch the other video, the Calculator Lab video that explains it. And I show you how to do it, and it also explains it in the book on page, I think, 299. Alright, so I think that's it for chapter 5. So you should be ready for that chapter 5 test now. I think it's all interesting. I hope you do too. Math is fun. No, math is great. Okay.